raiding very efficiently. If you look at the stats right now, my efficiency is at 290%, which is what you need to do if you're going to be doing a fight like this.
This is AllReasonNoLogic's road to OS25. Let's follow Pradith's journey from starting skill rating 16 as he makes his way to rating 25 and beyond.
Alright, welcome back to the road to 25. I'm Twig, and today we're jumping into a match on Coastlands Dry. A map that looks like it's going to be chill, but don't be fooled. Wide open plains, tight chokes near the middle, and just enough metal to make you think you can greed, which we all love to do. Let's see if Pradith can hold it together, increase his OS, which is currently at 23.09. Can he make the right calls and take another step towards that sweet rank 25? This time he is joined by a fellow ARNL partner, Tank Tom.
So with this game I jumped in to try and help make sure that Praetor continues his winning streak. And because I happened to be around and figured it's worth jumping in with mates, because it always makes it easier when you've got some trusted people standing alongside you. With this map and how vertical and choke points we've got, it was definitely going to be a bots game with the intention of trying to find some gaps early on and make sure that you've got enough of the chokes blocked that you don't find a tick munching on your wind just after you finished your first wind farm.
Speaking of ticks munching on your wind, considering how well my early harassers went in the previous game, I might be trying to do the exact same thing again. Though this time the gap that I have to cross between them is between where I'm starting and where the opponent's starting is much larger, so the opportunity for defense is right there, and those ticks definitely did slow me down. I did underestimate exactly how much wind I would need to get those out quickly, but part of this road to 25 is a learning experience. It does look like I'm also being backed up by a couple of other players doing the same thing, the pink player going across with some as well. But we're going to meet some resistance in the form of the blue player and the teal player that are sending theirs across too. I do manage to see that pink tick as it moves past, and we are in vision range of each other, and that prompts me to put a LLT down. An LLT which will potentially save my base if I am the one harassed. Now, I don't know which of these cliffs are traversable or not based on this. I could have used, I think it's F4 to check the traversability map, but I forgot that that was a thing that exists.
F6 for
and so I'm
people.
just going to wing it. And it does look like my ticks haven't deviated, so I think I'm pretty good. Going to be starting into that base, and my ticks will pick it. We'll see there's an LLT around about now. And that stops me from running straight in. The blue player thinks he's safe, but I've got some news for you. That right there is terrain, right between the edge and the... There we go. So that's where I learned that there was a LLT. And here I decide to try and just go on around. And I do lose a couple of the ticks, but 3 do make it through. I terribly micro them just here, but I do manage to take out a couple of these wind and 2 of these mexes, which I think this is a perfectly good trade for 3 ticks. I definitely could have done a lot better if I had moved them around more. Now that that little bit of action is off, just quickly jumping into my base. I've been scaling wind, I'm scaling units, the good stuff, you've seen it before, but the thing which is the place to look out for next is Tank Tom getting some early grunts up, and going to be transitioning into some light harassing out of him. Very happy that Tank Tom joined me on this one. I'm not the biggest fan of playing solo, so it is nice to have someone to play with. I've tried to do most of the games without an additional person in there, just so that it's more representative of what everyone else will be experiencing. But considering that it was time to make a video and Tank Tom was online, it was time to bring him into the series again. Did feature in a previous one as well. I always do appreciate the little kick to get me up and running.
I've appreciated having Pink, because you and Pink went forward at the same time. That meant that I didn't have to necessarily have units in the middle quite as early, so I worked on getting up some of the mexes, putting up a couple of
We look like
static defenses.
got an early bombing run coming through here, but there are fighters out to intercept it, so your light pink player dropping some misaligned bombs, missing all the mexes. They're doing some damage to the solars, but not actually taking them out. We managed to only take down one mex there, not
One of
quite the
the
worthy trade.
key things that came from that was I saw where they'd gone through and that they didn't fly over anything, and I went, well, I've got a handful of units. This is my chance. Let's see what I can find. So at this point, I was basically running blind, but I knew that there was going to be bases along here somewhere. I knew that the 6 units was enough that you can probably rush an LLT, but the intention was to avoid defenses where possible and see what I could find. So
And
Janice
does look
coming
like
out
you
of that
found a
lab
gap.
there, and with Janice, as soon as you find one, you kill it because they keep shooting.
Doing more damage
So,
against
this point-
stuff there, so really nicely done here. Taking out all the eco for this player and getting that. That's
And
a
the
big
lab.
hit. That's a big
Nice.
hit.
One lab,
Very nice.
3 mexes. I knew that there was units that were going to come up, so I was like, I'm going to keep on moving. On to the next.
Very luckily undefended here as well. This player not reacting, producing the thugs, sending them to the front line, but because they're focused on the front line, not looking at their base at all, this is going to be a big problem for them as you take down their wind, take down their lab, and take down their mexes. They have managed
One
to
of
get
my
a
priorities
rocket bomb.
here was taking out the build tower early so that they couldn't reduce more units. Only had to deal with one rocketeer that came out, and everything else was dead.
The only thing I
Oh.
would possibly say could improve this is instead of using the move commands, to use the attack commands. Although these grunts haven't taken much damage, most of it has actually been from the explosions. I like what you're doing here, leaving one grunt behind to distract these tanks from doing.
Well, I knew
any-
there was another mex out there, so I was. If I
Uh,
can sacrifice one,
Agreed. The
and I
absolute
knew if I
agreed.
sacrificed one of the units, the others would likely get away.
a nice micro there from you, Prey, just avoiding those D guns.
Yes,
Horns
currently
do
in a
beat grunts. I'm just going to jump back up to Tom in a second. You can really see how much more damage those pawns do to the grunts. Taking one out, obviously taking a bit of damage to themselves from their own rocketeers.
What's the thing that's really worth noting here? What's happening right now is what I would call a terrain fight. This is a really interesting piece of terrain to fight around. There's a lot of LLTs being built, there's a lot of defenses being built, there's a lot of players in the area. But what's going to happen here is whoever can fight using the terrain better is going to win this one. You need to be sieging using those rocket bots, and you need to be using the pawns and the grunts to try and maneuver and get around things, try and clean up lines by running down them. The problem is if you move them too far out of place, there's the opportunity for the other player to just rush you down and take out your rocket bots. Just for those interested, from my lab, I'm producing 2 rocket bots for every pawn that for every 4 pawns. Trying to have plenty of maneuverability whilst also trying to have plenty of firepower. I was a little slow on the repair and lost one of my LLTs, but I'm going to be making up for that by dealing.
Meanwhile, my
significantly
hero
more
grunt
damage.
in the corner that's still alive, running away from the fiend,
Taking
is
out that
up to 16
constructor
kills.
really did work there. Fiend finally gets it. One thing that you didn't do well though, Tom, is that metal is full and your base is still a bit of a skeleton because you have been microing so hard. Definitely worth it though. You took out 2 bases with, what was that, 6 grunts or something like that, and then heavily
6
damaged the other
grunts,
ones.
2 labs. That's that 3, 6, 7, 8 mexes, a wind farm conversion.
Yeah, I can see you're actually sharing metal as well, so knowing that you've not spent it, giving it to someone that can spend it a bit faster than you can.
Just had a run by with a bunch of grunts. They saw a gap and they're chasing it down. Unfortunately, because they have to run up those cliffs, did have a great opportunity to get in and engage them. They're also set to run to a very specific point, which is going to slow them down. If you are going to do this, try to spread them out by moving, by right-click and dragging, because those units do bunch up, and they did allow for some catch-up and some very efficient trades there. This has put me massively ahead in this trade, because my pawns are alive, their grunts are dead, and we're just sieging back and forth. I'm mostly getting my shots onto their fortifications, but they are picking away at those LLTs, and now that those have been picked off, there is a good opportunity to punch through. I really do have to be careful of the comm, though, because that D-gun could change the face of this fight. One thing that you'll note is my commander has been repairing through all of this time, so even though my units have been in combat for most of this time while everything's been going on, there's still a lot of them left, and they're still decently well off on health. Trading very efficiently. If you look at the stats right now, my efficiency is at 290%, which is what you need to do if you're going to be doing a fight like this. Noting the LLTs are down though, it's time for the grunts to go in and to clean up their rocket bots and to try and make a push of this. I did thankfully notice another little run by going for that top section there and managed to get my units there. A little bit of miss micro meant that those didn't push through, and I was able to clean them up very efficiently. Rocket bots continuing to fire in, get healed up, and then we're going to try and push that comm, see if I can't get a big reclaim victory in the middle. One thing I should have is a couple of res bots in order to try and clean this up, but I'm now pushing through with those pawns in the top, knowing I don't need them to counter numbers wise. And I'm going to see if I can successfully do what the Lilac player tried to do to me and get that run by. A couple of seconds of missed time, but they are in position to run down that line and engage all of these units one by one, get the surround bonus, and do maximum damage. Bunching them up a little bit too much there, but that has stopped the reinforcements and has helped to secure my front line. Even though I haven't done a lot of eco damage, I am just stopping this player from getting anything to help on the front line, and that's going to force someone to either come and help him or for me to take control of this position as we start the march forward.
Meanwhile, in the middle, they're pushing through with some tanks. I've sent some forces up to assist the player above me, been able to get some D-guns off, and now eating those vehicles that were donated. And the two red players above us, between the comm and the units, have got enough to clean up those vehicles that are left.
Bug's doing well against these Janus, especially when they only shoot once every, I think, 10 seconds or so. Maybe a little bit less than that. So Janus doing a lot of damage, probably equal damage, but Bug's easily cleaning that up.
Does look
Good
like
decision from Greedy. As soon as you find Janus, you keep pushing them until they're dead. Particularly if you've got the units advantage and you can tank a shot or two, you're better off to survive a volley and kill a couple rather than skirmish with them. And at this point in the middle here, I was largely trying to hold what we had. Between Pink and myself, we'd pushed out a couple of times, and at this stage we've got a nice metal field to enjoy.
Tip for this player in Lilac here, they could actually stand on this side of the hill and you can D-gun over these things. It does not change the range, so that D-gun shot will actually follow the line of the D-gun. Nicely done, Prey, taking them out. Pink player going around from the rear, get the reach around, the good old reach around, and taking them out together.
And that wasn't the first time that we've had players come around and support, so that rather than it being front on front, there's some flanks to provide assistance and get those surround bonuses.
That's exactly where I'm headed now that my front has been cleaned up and the air is starting to push blue back. Just consolidating the win here, grabbing all of that metal, going to be using that to get into T2. I'll overflow on metal, but I'm going to send that to Tank Tom because he's mentioned he's getting a T2 lab, and just utilize all this metal to try and put the team in the best position possible before coming down to try to clean up blue. Blue doing very, very well, sending a lot of units out of it, surprisingly a lot of units considering only on that T1 economy with a handful of mexes, but doing a great job at keeping the cream-colored player back. But unfortunately, they do know they have to deal with me and starting to send their units in. A little bit of miss micro by myself, losing a few pawns that I just did not have to, but they were there as a bit of a screening exercise while I did some macro on the back end. And now I'm getting my Rocketeers into play, now having to fight in a slightly surrounded position, making sure that my comm gets that 1200 metal before we back out. Even if that means I lose a couple of units, it is worth it to ensure that the blue team doesn't get that 1200 metal.
And nicely done. Essentially the first lane that's been properly broken in the game. Blue now being stretched thin with Cream attacking them on one side and you're keeping them occupied on the north. Let's have a little bit of a look up north. Tank Tom, you've been
And at
using
this
that
point,
commander
I'm
to hold the front line for most of the, having it on the assist command to a construction bot, putting up some of those more powerful turrets.
Sorry, just
Dragon
jumping
Balls.
back to the bottom lane. This was a pivotal moment, managing to get these pawns in. I ran down the entire blue line by engaging them one at a time, then cleaned up most of the.
Yeah, you can see
most
those
of the-
rackages there. Just really
Yes.
important if you can get on the side of a army like here, and then running along this, you can just see the wreckage all through there.
in the
nicely
middle
done.
here. The green com's about to go down. We identified between us that we had enough units and saw that it was on its own, so we made the push in to pop it. There hasn't been many
Unfortunately-
units coming in from this northern side at all. It's all static defenses. So some of the key
Oh wow, yeah.
defenses I've had is some of the radar jammers, so
Did
they
you
can't
just
see where my stuff is to
send
keep them alive.
3,000 metal to Tank Tom, Pro? I think I just
Yeah,
saw it.
yeah, I
Oh,
did.
it's like 3,043. Nicely done.
There was a lot of
you-
metal to be eaten.
And that
If
is the
you
good
look
thing to
at
do.
my
It's
base-
T2 units versus T1 units. So
Yes. If you look at my base, I'm only just getting my build power online after having a massive T1 struggle. I don't have enough wind to transition properly into T2, so I'm going to be doing a little bit of a miss micro here. I should go straight into a handful of the advanced solars or more wind, so just anything to try and power myself, but instead I'm going to do a slow T2 transition. That 3,000 metal though definitely needed to go to Tank Tom so that he can get his T2 on the front line, because we're definitely at a time of the game where T2 is now what we want to be seeing. It's what we want to be fighting with, and it's what we want in order to consolidate this middle position and start pushing forward.
And I've gone from producing thugs that have got a bit of heft to them to hold some of those lines into those Sheldons so that I've got the range, knowing that I haven't seen any real units and it's been largely artillery from static defense.
we got some
Having the
bombers
Sheldons
coming
so that I
across.
can hit those targets means that we can start dismantling the defenses that they have.
I don't mind this. You don't usually see this. Quite often airs used to be built up and take out eco, but this air player that you've got, the light pink player, has gone for some damage on the frontline units, and that's given you also plenty of vision to see that these were shell shockers that were trying to rain down on you, and you've chased down most of those.
I thought they were T2, and I was like, and I was pinging for Tom, and I was like, please come save me. I only have T1, but they have T2. But thankfully, that little bit of vision told me that was something I could engage into quite nicely.
One thing that Prey does really well is separate these pawns out continuously throughout the whole game, just scouting out, picking things off and doing the damage. And you can see if he keeps the micro going here. Why am I speaking too soon?
Good timing on that call. I totally don't lose a whole bunch of them for no reason.
That could have taken out those shell shockers, pawns beat shell shockers.
Yes.
And then once again, I'm going to just take the screen away from here because they are dying very quickly. Let's go back to Tom's Sheldon army that's doing a little bit more damage.
It's
In comes the
okay to
cavalry.
miss micro.
So seeing that we had units up here, Pink has the hounds up here, and I was coming through with the Sheldons to outrange the T1 units that were still
What
around.
you don't have his vision. Did you build any?
I was largely coming in behind. I did have a radar and jammer, but they're still on their way.
Yeah.
Because I'd been largely behind armies, I hadn't been as
Well,
concerned about the vision just yet.
A nice composition down here. We got some of those deceivers and the auger in the mix here for the cream player. What they are doing though is controlling this as a ball. So what you want to do is you want to put all those aggravators in a line at the front, and then put all the Sheldons and the radars behind, so that those Rocketeers take the damage first, rather than everyone getting a little bit of AoE damage.
With my
Definitely.
Sheldon ball there, because I knew that I was into shell shockers, I was kind of firing a volley, wait until I saw them launch, move out the way, fire again, rinse and repeat.
Alright, Prey, what's your base looking like? We've scaled up to T2 now.
Let's not
which is
look at
gone.
that. I'm definitely not energy stalled. I'm definitely not building
Wow.
multiple things at once. I'm definitely not doing all the things that we tell
Three-
you not to do.
3
I'm
wins
also
per
definitely
second.
not overflowing on metal. None of these things are happening, I swear.
And I'm doing fantastic because I'm using all of my metal and all of my energy, and
Oh wow, you've gone
microing on
straight
the
into an
front line.
Aphis. That is terrible, Tom. Go into a fusion burst. This isn't King of the Hill. Oh,
Look,
well.
what this is a lesson in how you don't have to be perfect to hit 25 OS. You need to make decent decisions. You can either be good at macro or micro in a game, or you can be average at both, but you just have to make good decisions. And right now, a lot of the decisions that have been made have been quite good ones. Going into that T2 when you had the metal excess, when there was that stall time in the middle, recognizing that what you were fighting was 4 gauntlets which aren't going to move. They're not going to go offensive. Taking the opportunity to macro then was a great idea, as compared to me, where I was fighting constantly against the Lilac player. My options to macro were not huge, so what I did was I went back to my base. I made sure there were a couple of builders doing a few things so that my win did scale, so that my build power scaled, so my conversions scaled, not massively, just minorly.
Yeah, and
And then
perfectly
I-
summarized.
Built
And then
the
I
fusions
focused
though.
all of my energy on the front line.
And really, that
Yeah,
is what
I've
you see
been
in these higher level
fighting.
games. The really high OS players, you actually see that their eco is not too dissimilar to all of you viewers. It's the micro where they really get their high OS from. And Tom chased down by a few fiends there, unfortunately. A nice pull from that team. Praedyth, though, whilst that the armies are distracted with Tom, has been able to go in and almost get to the eco. A twin guard in the way there. But we're going to maybe... Oh, I don't mind this actually. Detonating your whole army so that they can't get the medal, knowing that they're gonna fall.
I figured that if I did succeed, all I was going to do was take down maybe one more advanced metal extractor, but then I would be giving them several thousand metal and they could easily repair it and build it back. Instead, I just sacked the army because I knew it was lost and was like, all right, I'm going into T2 now anyway, so we're good to go. I've fixed my
And one of the
energy issues. I've fixed
nice
my...
things that happened here is because we had multiple armies going at once. It wasn't just one player with one push. It was multiple players with multiple pushes. So I pulled a bunch of aggro. I lost my Sheldons, but you were then free to push on in. And then after that, we've had the cream player coming through with an army as well.
Yeah.
So it's not just one, it's a combined effort in this bottom side.
One of the things which all three of us, myself, you, Tank Tom, and the cream player have all fallen victim to in this bottom section. Because of these hills, because of the terrain, this is actually quite hard to siege. And watching this as a replay, I would wish that I'd made some very different decisions when it came to sieging this. So I'm going straight into a large ball of hounds with a couple of archangels because I see that the air player is up here trying to help, and I want to try and just pick off the air screen as I can. But the thing that I am missing is I don't have spam, and I haven't grabbed a couple of either gunslingers or welders, preferably welders, to fight on this front line. And this blue player is... The blue player and the lilac player are doing a fantastic job of holding with very small amounts of units. They're using the terrain to hide the fiends, wait until the balls of Sheldons get nice and close, and then rushing up upon them to try and deal maximum damage, and then also using ticks to grab that fire, and in particular, just slow these pushes down and keep themselves alive. Phenomenal play out of these players, and you can see why they are the blue, which is the top of the team. Really good plays here, really efficient trades. Unfortunately just locked into their base, so they can't really overly do a lot about it. But this turns into more of an us problem than a them problem, because we're not building the right units to counter. And that's one of the things that you really do have to get used to as you move up in the OS, is working out what you need to finish off a game, working out what you need to fight, where you're going to be fighting and what you're going to be fighting. I know that there are going to be ticks, I know there are going to be fiends, and yet I'm building hounds because that's what I always do. When it comes to my first T2 push, it is hounds. It's what I'm comfortable with, it's what I'm used to, and that's not what's needed against these ticks. It's not what's needed against these fiends.
Welders would have been the good choice. However,
what is needed.
Energy is lacking a little, so I don't mind the hounds because you don't quite have the energy to keep building.
It's even without the energy, it's still not good
Let's
enough,
just look at
because
how how good
Well,
Blue's doing with those ticks
yes.
and fiends. They have just completely crumped this army here, just by pulling everything at the right time. And ticks they just win out against compositions that don't have any anti-spam in them.
And I think what Prey was saying, I know I've lost more fights to poor composition than I have to pretty much anything else once you get to this sort of stage of the game. You need to be flexible enough to pick what's going to win for this game, not what works well in general.
Yes. Like, one of the things that I really genuinely could have done instead of this is I could have gone sprinters.
I don't mind that.
Could have gone
That would have been a good
sprinters.
shout.
And my solution to what's about to happen is going to be going into welders, but look how far that all of this stuff has to walk. Welders are not going to get here anytime soon. Look at this. This is a handful of pawns, a handful of ticks, and one artillery, and they're just completely routing my entire hound army.
Yeah, nicely done by the blue player there, like showing
Really
a little
nicely
bit
done by
more
the blue player.
experience. The little silver tail on their chevrons, they have experienced this before and know the right answer. The rock to your scissors.
Yes. And so now I've recognized the problem, and unfortunately this also means that I'm abandoning the air player who's going in to try and support me, because I've lost my anti-air and I can't push over into this because I'll lose everything to that persecutor just trying to get there with the handful of units inside of mine that are going to be killed by... I'm going to die to my own friendly fire, basically. And then I do go into the welders, but welders have a movement speed of 47, and they have to walk all the way across the map, so I'm stunted for like a minute.
The
which is
pink player looks
not where
like
you
they
want to be.
scouted that there's not that much anti-air, just the one ferret in the blue base. Sorry, 2 ferrets. And it looks like they're targeting the build power with those gunships. No
Yes.
air visible in sight, and yeah, taking out all of that. Are they going to go for the persecutor? That would be ideal.
Now there is
No.
plenty of firepower between myself and Cream on that front line, which means that this is now becoming a more viable attack vector, especially seeing that all the build power went down, which means that the ticks and the grunts are going to be far from coming. There is some air screen here, but my one remaining Archangel doing a great job of shooting a lot of it down.
You can see me contributing to the front line by cleaning up all that debris that's sitting there.
Eat, and eat away. There we go, and that is a resign vote from the blue team. Having been pushed all the way back to their line across the map, they recognized their defeat and pulled away. A lot of mistakes by myself in this game, some fantastic backup by Tank Tom in this one, and some really strong plays by the opponents. But this one, we did manage to eke out the victory, and I'm really glad that I do watch these replays, because looking at this, I could have built these mexes going forward. I could have T2'd these mexes going forward. I messed up my economy in the back line, and I messed up my army composition. This is stuff which is going to help me move forward into my next matches, because I know that the hump to go that last couple of OS is going to be quite a big one, considering that this win only bumped me up by a fraction, still sitting at 23 OS. So we're going to have to...
23.25, so very small amount. And that, I think, was just because most of the other team was in their teens of OS. You're at 23. You had one player on your team with a little bit more at 24. And you did do quite well. You can see really in this stats page here, the damage efficiency of your entire team, minus one land player and your air player that had somewhat poor efficiency. Which is expected for an air player, actually. Yeah, really high. Everyone in the hundreds and 200s, and you doing third most damage in the game. Really nicely done. Tank Tom doing very well as well, with a damage efficiency of 177%, very dominant. Nice T2 transition there, and yeah, nicely played, boys. Another win that makes it 5 in a row for you.
Just want to jump into the graphs real quickly, particularly the damage dealt graph. Despite all of my mistakes, that's a big deal.
It makes a huge difference. So you've done, of your total 140k damage, you've done half of that between the 7-minute mark and the, what's that, about 10-minute mark?
Yeah.
Um,
This is the constant fighting that was happening on that front line, the constant trading, the constant healing, the constant allowing my army to build up bigger than the Lilac
yeah.
Lilac's army by
And you can
not losing
see
units through the repair.
that's where all the damage was received as well. Looking at the
Yep.
Lilac player in the same position there, and that really makes a difference. People, like, that is metal that converts to metal going down the drain.
And then the other one to really look at is the metal produced. Even though I felt like I played terribly that game, because I was on point with that reclaim, because I was trading very efficiently and on that front line, I stayed right near the top of the pack when it came to metal income through the whole game.
Yeah, and your metal sent far above everyone else's in the game, sending 7,000 almost through to your team.
Yeah, let's not look at that. That's not good.
It's almost that's almost an APHIS.
Shit it.
Nah, well done though, recognizing it and sending it to the right people during the game. People that you're on Discord with, Tank Tom, I'm sure I was in there with you guys.
It's much appreciated.
Yes, just a big tip just here. If you are incapable of spending your metal and it is overflowing, one of the things that you should look at is someone who is actively contributing to the game and is low on metal. If you find someone like that, then just actively send a chunk of your metal to them, because one player receiving 1,000 metal is better than all players receiving 150 metal. I automatically sent it to Tank Tom without looking, because I knew I could rely on Tank Tom because in Discord. But if I've done it in other games where I usually send it to potentially the highest OS player or just someone who is in desperate need of metal, and that can swing. Even though you're not up there to help them, it can swing a battlefield. So if you are mismicroing yourself, you can still help your team, which I think is a pretty important thing to remember.
That's it. We hope
Also,
you
mismicroing.
guys have enjoyed this one. We're almost at that 25 OS, that praise targeting. Hopefully we get there soon. It's been not too long a journey, but it's been an enjoyable one, that's for sure. Gents, any final comments?
Yeah, do better macro.
Yeah.
Also, hit that subscribe button, people. We're almost at 1,000. It's
jump in the Discord as well. Also, if you feel like it, give us a follow on Twitch. We're nearly at that magic 50, which lets us become affiliates or something along those lines.
all right, much appreciated in advance, people, and really, if like even 10% of the people that followed this message that listened to it, go and hit those buttons. We'll get there in a couple of days. Thank you very much.
Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya.